So I get asked all the time how to invest, and everyone always is like, well, no one ever tells me how to invest. Everyone says Roth IRA and they say all these fancy jargon terms like ETF and index fund and individual stock, but like, how do I actually invest? So this video is specifically to learn how to invest in a nutshell. And of course, a YouTube video is not going to be able to cover every single little detail when it comes to investing. So it's super important that you guys get educated on these topics that I discussed, but I'm going to walk you through the blueprint. And if you guys do want to learn, I have a course in the show notes below that will get you started and make sure that you're off to the races, which is our whole entire goal here. So with that being said, I want to talk about my experience with investing. So I'm now 32 years old, but when I started, I was about 22 years old. So it's been about a decade of time. And I didn't come from a family that invested or talked about investing, and quite honestly, they don't even know what a Roth IRA is. So I had zero financial education growing up, and I was pretty much left on my own to figure this game out. And so what I did was when I started Deloitte, I remember specifically my mentor. She told me, you need to invest in your 401k at least up to the match. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time. And she just told me to do it. And I was like, okay, I trust you. I still don't know if this is the right move. There's less money coming out of my pocket. And I remember the very first contribution I made was $115 into a 401k. That was 6% of my salary at the time, which was $50,000 at Deloitte right out of school back in, I want to say this was 2015, 2016. And that was the very scary occurrence because I realized that money was not really in my bank account. Now, it was still my money, but I couldn't touch it. It was locked away for at least 59 and a half years old. Obviously, there's ways to get it out. We talk about that. But for the purpose of what I was trying to accomplish, that money was locked away until 59 and a half. So basically retirement. I was only 22 years old. So it was scary to be making $50,000 and not having as much money in my pocket. And I had to bite the bullet and figure this game out. And I realized what happened with time, I got more and more comfortable. So at first it was really scary. I was like, I just lost $115 per paycheck. That's $230 roughly a month. I'm losing, technically speaking. And the fact that I'm even saying I'm losing was where I was mentally. I was thinking I was losing this money because it was not really mine. It was absolutely mine. And I was setting myself up for the future. And it was very wise, and I'm glad I did it, but it wasn't feeling as such. So I had to get accustomed to what that felt like to lose money per se out of my paycheck and to kind of realign the way I think about it. And I have to say, success and investing in general takes time to become comfortable with. And it never usually feels good when you're actually making real progress. But on the other side of that struggle typically is a good thing. So anyways, I'm here at Deloitte, 22 years old, investing $115 per paycheck out of my $50,000 salary. I think it was 6% at the time. And I was getting up to my match. So I was getting 100% free money on the match side of the equation. And I thought I was doing really well, but I didn't realize everything else I had to actually do outside of my 401k. I figured, oh, my 401k, my mentor told me to do that. I'm probably good to go. And that's all I really need to do. I was totally wrong. Now, current day, I have 10 plus accounts, and they're all different types of accounts. We can get into them in another video, but I have tons of investment accounts all over the place for all sorts of different goals, for all sorts of different people in my family. And we've set those up with time. But of course, it all stemmed from the very first action I took, which was just invest money that I had and just start somewhere. And that happened to be my 401k. So I suggest everybody out there, no matter what you're doing right now, to at least make some small action that leads you to investing, and it will eventually become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Because the number one thing is investing and building the habit. Building the habit of investing is a lot harder than putting more money forth. With time, you'll make more money. You can put more money, but if you can't build the habit, more money is never going to solve your problem. Not to mention, I've never heard somebody that's actually invested over the long haul tell me it was a bad idea unless they invest in Dogecoin. That's a whole nother story. So anyways, I'm starting to invest. I'm getting my confidence up. I'm starting to build a lot of wealth, and I start to see the compound interest effect of all my investments. So I remember in 2016, the market returned almost 12% and then followed up in 2017 by about 22% return. I thought I was balling. I thought that was like the coolest thing in the world. I was actually making money from just putting money in. I was like, oh, this is amazing. Then 2018 came. In 2018 had a negative 4 to 5% return. And I was like, whoa, what is this? I thought the market only went up. Everyone told me 10% returns, 10% returns. And now I've had a negative 5% return. I'm losing money. What do I do? My money's locked away. I'm freaking out. I'm worried. That is where the education comes into play. To understand that's actually a good thing. That's called volatility, and that's a feature of the market that you should embrace. But at first, it feels a little scary. So I'm going to teach you and show you kind of how to invest and how to think about this throughout time. So that was my experience. And And with my experience came my investing mindset, which I think is second to the whole investing equation, is understanding where your mindset is when it comes to investing. What are you trying to accomplish? What are your goals? And what exactly are you trying to see through? So most people get into the investing game because they heard their friend got into it and they made some money, or their cousin or their colleague, and they're hearing people on social media talk about how much money they're making, and they get into it for the wrong reason. I think the investing mindset, a smart investor, a wise investor, is thinking about their financial goals, and they're thinking about what they're trying to accomplish. And investing is just another way to speed up your financial goals. And in fact, it's the fastest way to speed up your financial goals in a realistic time frame. And if you save money, you've already lost the game. Poor people save money, rich people invest. And when I learned that concept, it changed my life forever, because I was a big saver growing up, but then my net worth was also negative $8,000, and I realized saving's not going to get me there. I started investing, and a decade later, my net worth is $2.6 million. There's a reason I got there. It wasn't from saving dollar bills. It was from investing all my active income into cash flowing assets, building compound interest, letting time play. And I realized the investor mindset was a long-term game, and it wasn't just right here, right now, or this year or next year. It was a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year, 40-year timeline, depending on what my goals are. If you are putting money into the market and you have a goal of less than 5 years, that is a disaster waiting to happen. You often are going to have a lot of volatility in a short time frame within the stock market. So understanding what your financial goals are, linking those back to the actual accounts that you need to invest, and then linking to an investment product within those accounts that actually aligns with your risk profile, time, and goals for that financial goal. Once you have that lined up, you're going to be able to figure out, do I need a Roth IRA? Do I need a 529? Do I need a 401k? Do I need a taxable brokerage, an HSA, whatever the account is? And that's actually the easy part. Typically the hardest part is to frame the investing mindset, frame how investing actually works. The whole goal of it is literally to achieve a financial goal. It's not just to make a lot of money and to increase. It's literally to achieve a financial goal, whether it be retiring early, whether it be buying a beach house at 50 years old, whether it be having a spouse do part-time work at 45 years old. Whatever your goals are, that's okay. But you need to understand that and then align your investments with that particular goal. And every goal has a different investment account that's going to be associated with it. We have multiple taxable brokerage accounts. One's for one goal, the second's for a second goal, the third's for a third goal. And again, it doesn't matter what my goals are. It's just a matter of understanding how you frame this entire investment game. So for anybody trying to invest, I think the number one thing is getting your investor mindset right. Don't go in thinking I'm just going to make a bunch of money right here, right now, because it doesn't typically happen. And what usually happens as a result is you have a 2018 year or you have a 2022 year where the market's down pretty big and everyone freaks out and they wonder why they're not making money. Well, that's part of the game. You're going to have drawbacks. In fact, in 2022, that was one of the worst years I've actually experienced. It was down 20% and I invested more money than I ever have in my life. And that alone has taught me that coming back in 2023 and 2024, the growth on my portfolio, because I was investing on the way down, is super critical. Now, once you understand this piece of the puzzle, now we got to get to your available cash flow. We have to have a money management system that actually gives you your number, your available cash flow that you have available to invest. Because randomly throwing dollars in is not a strategic plan. I promise you right now, you will lose so fast if you don't have an automation going into an account. We like to dollar cost average here. I think dollar cost averaging is the best way to invest. The same small dollar amount every single week or 2 weeks or every month, and keep it very consistent. Automate that process. That's dollar cost averaging in a nutshell. And I think that's the best way to go about this. Now, understanding what your goals are, how much available cash flow you have, and then also what does that particular goal that you have? Let's say you want to have your spouse quit at age of 45. She goes part-time, he goes part-time, and then the other spouse is working full-time. You want to retire by 50, whatever that is. Understand what the amount of cash flow it is on a monthly basis to invest, given a set of assumptions about how much your contribution is, what your starting point is, and also what your time frame in return is. Now, I use typically 6 to 8% depending on how short or long the time frame is, and all the other factors I mentioned, the initial starting balance, the monthly contribution, and then also the time is just a matter of inputting in a compound interest schedule. So I'll link a compound interest calculator below so you can play with it, but really all that is we have to understand what we're assuming, which is the return, and the return is not guaranteed 10%, just so you know. So when you go into the investing markets and you start to invest, don't expect just to have a 10% return every single year. In fact, that hardly ever happens. Now, over the long haul, if you are in the S&P 500 specifically, that's been the average over a 100-year period. That's not to say that's going to continue. That's not to say you're going to receive that over whatever period that you're investing. That is just historical market returns. And if you want to learn more about the 4 lies of the S&P 500, click the upper right-hand corner and I'll share all 4 lies for you. So once we have an available cash flow, and that comes from a good money management system. If you don't have that, that's what we do in Budgetdog Academy all the time. We build an automated money management system with you and make sure that you know how every dollar flows in and out of your life, and it's super simple. We automate this entire process. We put it into our goals. We link our goals to our cash flow, and it's a match made in heaven. It's super easy to actually achieve financial freedom. I've done it for thousands of people. And if you want to meet with my team, you have to send me a DM on social media. I don't put this link anywhere to join the academy. It's very exclusive, but for those that are really serious, you'll find me. The next part of the equation is before you even get to this. So kind of when you're figuring out the available cash flow, you might come to the conclusion that you still have high interest debt. You might have some bills that are overdue. You might have the reality that you don't have an emergency fund yet. Those are a few things that if you don't have those situated, you need to make sure those things are situated right here, right now, because if not, you're going to have a lot of issues down the road when you're trying to invest. If a emergency pops up, if you're high interest debt, credit card, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to be paying 25% on a credit card debt when you can have a fixed return by taking all your available cash flow and paying that credit card off. And so once you're past those baby steps, now we want to get to the really big stuff, which is really truly investing with the available cash flow that you have, and then understanding what your options actually are, which is the next part of the equation. So now we have our investing mindset right, we have our available cash flow figured out, and we also make sure that the basics are covered, which is our high interest debt's paid off, our emergency fund is funded, and we also are current on all of our bills. Once those things are fully up and running, now we can take that available cash flow and begin to invest. But what do you invest in? That's probably the next question you're going to ask. This is where education comes into play. And of course, the course below in the show notes is going to walk you through everything that a YouTube video can't. And it's a very long-winded explanation of everything that you need to know. But what you need to know in general is the picture on the screen. So we have to understand the levels of investing. So as you see on the screen, we have a graphic that shows the 4 layers of index investing. This is really the 4 layers of all types of investing for the most part. At the very top level, we have the broker. This is where you actually invest at. Put simply, Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab are 3 great brokers. Now, once we select a broker, I personally use Vanguard. I have no affiliation with them. I wish I did, honestly, but they don't let me. And the next piece of the puzzle was what type of accounts do we need? Now, remember what I said in the beginning. Each goal that you have should have a particular account associated with it. So I always link my goals and my accounts together. So I want to start off by listing out my goals. If I know my investing goals, my financial goals, now it makes it easier to go select the actual account that I want. For example, if I want to retire early, well, an IRA and a 401k, I can't really pool till 59 and a half. There are exceptions to that, and I will say that. But in general, I'm going to have something else in the puzzle, like a taxable brokerage account. If I want to provide education for my kid, a 529 might be that route. If I want to provide some money for my kids outside of education, maybe a taxable brokerage in the parent name might make sense. Maybe if I'm saving up for health expenses long-term, maybe I use an HSA. There's all sorts of accounts for all sorts of goals. Now, I can't go through every single one in this YouTube video. Again, that's what the course below is literally for. So you can literally understand every single last account there is and why you would select an account. But once we select an account, that's not the end goal. Now within each one of those accounts, we have to select the actual investment product. Now the investment product can come in many forms. It can come as an ETF, it can come as an index fund or a mutual fund, and maybe even an individual holding. Understanding those 4 types of options, now we want to do like a risk profile quiz or multiple quizzes and understand what our allocation should be within each various account. And when you do these quizzes, you have to answer the questions in line with each financial goal. And in the top right-hand corner, I have a portfolio allocation video that walks you through how to select portfolio allocation. But in general, once we understand a portfolio allocation through multiple quizzes that we take or different things that we decide to do to educate ourselves on allocation, now this gives us the ability to go select the actual investment product that aligns with that allocation. That's going to be based on your risk profile and also your timeline of those specific financial goals. So once we have the risk profile, the timeline of that financial goal, and we know that the particular account that we need to use for that financial goal, and we know the available cash flow, now it's a matter of setting up the automation and making this super simple. We know exactly how much money on a monthly basis, weekly basis, bi-weekly basis, whatever you want to do, needs to go into that account, which then is invested in this particular funds or the allocation mix in order to hit your financial goals. That is how you invest, literally step by step by step. So let's recap before I give you actually links to get started. So the number one thing is we have to understand our investing mindset. Why are we here? What are we trying to accomplish? And what is our timeline behind all this stuff and our goals? Once we understand our mindset, now we need to go understand with a money management system, our available cash flow. Once we have our available cash flow, we have to make sure all the basics are covered, which is making sure bills are current, our emergency fund is fully funded, and that we've paid off all high interest debt. Now we take that available cash flow and then automate that into those various accounts, which is dispersed amongst the allocation mix that you decided based on the profile quizzes that you took or other quizzes that you took and education that you've actually done. And now you just need to set up the automation. So you know every month you have an extra extra $2,000. You know, $1,000 goes into the taxable brokerage, $500 goes into the IRA, another $250 goes into a 529, maybe another $250 goes into an HSA. I don't know your goals. I don't know what your cash flow is going to look like. I'm just giving you an example. Once all that stuff is done, now it's just a matter of turning the automations on for that to continue to happen every single month. And if you're afraid to turn the automation on because you're afraid you're not going to have a consistent $2,000 a month, you're not doing this right and you don't have a real money management system, which is why we started with money management system. And that's so important. Why all my students are able to crush this and automate their financial dreams and also accomplish their financial dreams is because they have all of this in line, every little piece of the puzzle in line. It's not as easy as saying you should do X, Y, and Z and boom, go on your day. So an IG live question comes, how to invest. That's really hard to answer. Obviously, as I'm trying to explain in a YouTube video, and also we have an entire course dedicated to how to literally invest. It is not easy to say, this is exactly how you invest, which is why you need education. Education is the name of the game and it will change your life forever. It's also why I get frustrated when people ask me what stock to pick. As you can see, just based on this simple conversation, that's really hard to answer. You're starting down here at this level and I'm all the way up here thinking, well, you don't know what broker to use. You don't know what account to use. You don't know what investment product to use. Oh, wait, you don't even have a money management system. You don't have an investor mindset and you don't even have financial goals. That is what my brain does as an experienced investor. And so I have to start way up here and you're already asking questions down here. And I'm like, you still need steps 1 through 7. And you're asking me step number 8. And I'm like, this isn't going to make sense because you're going to pick that investment product and it's going to lose money and you're going to be so frazzled and then you're going to make really poor decisions. I don't want that to happen to you, which is why I'm explaining this process from start to finish. Now, if you want to start this process, literally go down in the show notes below and start the process with my course right this second. That is the easiest way to get started. It's going to make your life a lot easier and you're going to be able to figure this all out very quickly within probably about 5 days. At least that's how the course is structured, but you could fly through it if you have a whole weekend or something that you have time on your side. And then lastly, for anyone that wants to get started right now, remember the very first part of the puzzle was the actual broker. So if you want to go to Vanguard.com, Fidelity.com, or CharlesSchwab.com, that is your starting point, and then apply everything we just talked about, and I guarantee you will start investing today. I hope that simplifies how to invest, and if it doesn't, you can always come to my DMs. You also can start with the course below and make this super easy. Anyways, guys, I will see you next Monday.